7 investigators are revealing the role Detroit police officers played in a dangerous chase that ended in tragedy, and how those same officers are accused of trying to cover up their bad decisions. Tonight, 7 investigator Ross Jones is breaking news that the victim's own family never knew about.
I'm being advised of multiple auto accidents, possible fatal there.
It's January 3rd, 2020, and Detroit Police Squad Car 836 is at the scene of a terrible crash on the city's west side. The driver, officers later learned, was drunk and blew through a red light. The damage was significant.
Holy man! Get my wife out, man. Please.
7 telegraph.
Miss.
When it was over, 4 people would be hospitalized. The drunk driver, Linnell Dixon, would survive. His passenger would not. She was 21-year-old Miracle Jamerson, the mother of 3-year-old Terrell and Paula Gribble's daughter.
It's horrible. It's horrible to have to live through this. I would wish this on somebody I hated. I really would.
No one was more responsible for the devastation that night than Linnell Dixon, who was not only drunk but driving on a suspended license and tonight sits in prison. But an investigation would later find that Detroit police officers played a role in what happened too, with investigators concluding that their conduct was unethical and amounted to a cover-up.
I asked these questions for years and no one won't come forward with this information. You're the only person who answered our questions.
This is the dash cam video from that night, moments before the chase. Officer Hession Zamey is in the driver's seat and Officer Christopher Bush is the front passenger. In the back is another officer and a ride-along, Officer Zamey's cousin. Their squad car is what's called semi-marked, like this. It's black with no visible lights or sirens, and in the dark, you may not even know it's police. At 9:30, the officers were headed west on 8 Mile near Telegraph when they see a blue Saturn Aura headed in the opposite direction. From the video, it's unclear why the Saturn got the officers' attention, but the squad car does a U-turn and begins to follow. A report written the next day claimed the car was speeding, but that's not clear from the video, and a sergeant later determined that the officers did not have probable cause to stop the Saturn in the first place. But they followed it anyway, and instead of turning on their overhead lights and sirens, they turn on their spotlight. Police would later write that it was to illuminate the license plate, but look again. Before they turn the spotlight on, the plate is already clearly lit. Seconds later, the Saturn takes off, narrowly missing an oncoming vehicle, then almost hitting a tree. But still, the officers don't turn on their lights and sirens as policy dictates, even though they're now chasing the Saturn, reaching speeds of 65 miles per hour. What are the reasons that officers don't turn on lights and sirens?
In a pursuit situation, there is no reasonable reason.
Dennis Kenny is a professor of law enforcement at John Jay College in New York who studied police chases across the country and reviewed this one.
There's very few outcomes that can happen when a pursuit occurs, and most of them are bad. The whole point of the lights and siren is to warn everyone so that they can protect themselves, get out of the way.
But no one on the road that night was given warning by police. One possible reason, the officers knew that turning on their lights and sirens would start recording the chase. What they didn't realize, according to investigators, it was already being recorded.
Well, it means that they knew that they were conducting an improper pursuit and were trying to conceal that fact.
The chase spilled out onto a busy 7 Mile road as the Saturn approached Telegraph. Even still, Zamey and Bush kept the lights and sirens off, giving no warning to other drivers of a chase. So the SUV crossing Telegraph didn't have a chance to miss Linnell Dixon when he blew through a red light. The GMC Yukon was flipped, the husband and wife inside badly injured. They were sent to the hospital along with 2 others, and Miracle Jamerson,
Did she have a pulse or anything?
was pronounced dead at the scene. Only after the crash did officers finally turn on their overhead lights.
Indicative of an absolute cover-up.
David Robinson was a Detroit cop for 13 years and today is an attorney who specializes in police misconduct cases.
They knew they were wrong. They knew they were in violation of the department policy.
The crash knocked out power to the area, and within minutes, EMS arrived on the scene along with other officers.
You guys see this?
It happened right in front of us.
You guys saw it happen?
Yep.
DPD policy said Zamey and Bush should have already notified their superiors that the crash stemmed from their chase, but they didn't. In fact, hours would go by before investigators even learned there'd been a chase in the first place, and only after reviewing the dash cam video that Zamey and Bush didn't believe was recording. Officers were seen turning off their body cameras too, a violation of department policy, and they didn't disclose that in the back seat during the whole chase,
oh my gosh,
was Officer Zamey's cousin.
It doesn't raise red flags, it waves them rather aggressively.
For Officer Zamey, it was only the latest controversy in a short 3-year career at DPD. He'd already been cited for failing to report a traffic crash involving 2 prisoners and 4 times for failing to turn on or keep on his body camera. 3 of the cases were dismissed. In a 4th, he was supposed to receive informal counseling and never did. Just 2 months prior to the chase, a Wayne County judge ruled Zamey conducted an illegal search of a man on private property. In the same case, another judge called Zamey's testimony ugly, not believable, and not credible at all.
To me, it's indicative of a supervision problem at that precinct. They are allowing it, they're empowering him to go out and commit further violations.
The officers an investigation concluded were attempting to conceal the totality of the circumstances behind the fatal crash, and that none could easily be considered credible. Had they simply followed policy and turned on their lights and sirens, a sergeant wrote, the outcome of this incident may have transpired differently.
We live right here. That's Demi's bar. This is Woodbine.
Miracle's family never knew of DPD's role in the pursuit and hadn't seen the dashcam video either until we talked with them. What haunts her sister most is seeing just how close Miracle was to making it home that night, only about a block away when police started to follow.
They rode past the house, Ma. My sister was coming home. My sister was coming home. He drove her past our house.
Detroit police declined an interview for this story, but said their investigation is not yet finished. When it is, disciplinary action will be taken if it is warranted, and it could include termination. Officer Bush's union did not respond to a request for comment. When I reached Officer Zamey on his cell phone, he hung up. For more than a year, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office was considering bringing criminal charges against Zamey. In January, Kim Worthy's office ultimately denied a warrant request. Carolyn?
Certainly alarming what we saw on that video. Thank you so much, Ross, as always, for your great investigative work.